I call to order this special meeting of the Monument Town Council, July 2nd, 2024. Please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic which stands one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Ms. Erickson, will you take roll, please?
Councilmember Chronic,
Here.
Councilmember Romanella,
Here.
Mayor Pro Tem King,
Here.
Councilmember Abbott,
Here.
Councilmember Fiorito,
Here.
Mayor LaKine,
Here.
Councilmember Kimball.
Here. Okay, any members of the council have any disclosures or conflicts of interest that have been presented? Mr. Cole?
I have not received any notices of conflicts for this evening's meeting.
Okay, thank you. All right, we have a consent agenda and agenda before us. Any comments, questions, concerns about the agenda or modifications?
Yes, I have one correction to the June 17th minutes, number 4. I believe it's Chief Regan rather than Chief Regal.
Say that on a mic, hot mic, right?
Regan.
Thank you.
Okay, any other modifications than renaming the chief? All right, seeing none, then I'll look for a motion.
I'll make a motion to accept the agenda and consent agenda with the noted correction as presented.
Second.
Your motion is second, Ms. Erickson.
Mayor Pro Tem King,
Yes.
Councilmember Kimball,
Yes.
Mayor LaKine,
Yes.
Councilmember Fiorito,
Yes.
Councilmember Abbott,
Yes.
Councilmember Chronic,
Yes.
Councilmember Romanella.
Yes.
The motion passes 7-0. Next up, oath of office, Chief Regal. Oh, Chief Reagan.
That's never gonna go away.
Thanks, Will. Tonight, I'm going to swear in our two newest officers, which is Damaj Brown Franklin and Brian Salvetti. If you would, raise your right hand and repeat after me. I state your name. You solemnly swear that I will support and bear true faith and allegiance to the Constitution and laws of the United States of America and the state of Colorado and to the ordinances of the town of Monument. And that I will defend and protect the lives, safety and property of the people of Monument. And that I will faithfully and impartially discharge the duties of peace officer according to the best of my ability. So help me God. Congratulations. Once you're done clapping, can you just introduce yourself? Give them a little bit about yourself. Let's take a photo.
Damaj Brown Franklin, from Los Angeles, California. I went to the military fairly young, United States Army for 4 years. My wife is here, Destiny. We've got 2 kids. They're in California right now, so they couldn't be here. Prior to coming on to MPD, I was with CSPD for 2 years, and that's my law enforcement experience.
I'm Brian Salvetti. I come from
Syracuse, New York. Moved out here in 2016. Was with Aurora Police Department for a little bit. Very excited to be here. I'm looking forward to working with the people in the town of Monument. I have my pinners come up, please. I hope you practiced. You know what? Let me open it. I'll just give you that.
Those here for the swearing in.
John.
Okay, we will move on to our next item, ordinance. We have ordinance number 13/2024, ordinance extending the temporary suspension of accepting new applications under the Town of Monument Land Development Code. Mr. Ungerleider.
So, back in January 16th, 2024, you adopted an ordinance, ordinance number 2024, was attached to the memo and provided to you in the agenda. This ordinance established a temporary suspension of the receipt and processing of all new applications for development approvals. It had been determined back at the time that the temporary suspension was necessary due to the ongoing planning department staffing shortfalls and turnover, and the number of anticipated large and complex development requests expected this year. As defined by the ordinance, we did allow for projects that have already started the preliminary application process. A copy of a list of those projects are also attached with that memo, showing the current standing. You'll see that many of them are projects that we completed our review and then we're waiting for a response from the developer. So we're managing. As approved by the ordinance number 4, this temporary suspension would end on July 15th if no action by council was taken before or at that meeting. What we've worked with as a development and a administrative team is we decided to bring the ordinance to early, giving you the opportunity to either extend the current suspension beyond, or to let that or not approve that ordinance and allow the suspension to cease on July 15th. This was provided to you so that way there wouldn't be necessarily a gap on July 15th. You'd find yourself having not any suspension while the new ordinance is being posted and its ordinances are supposed to be posted. So with that, I guess there are two alternatives for you to make a decision on tonight. One is to either approve the motion that we're providing to ordinance number 13/2024, and this ordinance would extend the temporary suspension established and defined by ordinance number 4/24 to a date certain that you would have to determine. I have not provided a date or a time frame in that ordinance. The second would be to make a motion to deny that ordinance, thus allowing ordinance 4 typo 2024 to be automatically appealed and of no further effect at the conclusion of the regular town council meeting on July 15th, 2024. There have been requests submitted by the development community seeking the suspension to be released in whole or in part, allowing for certain development review aspects to be released in phases. The planning department has considered this request to release a suspension in phases, and has found that such a practice would be unnecessary. Rather, as previously noted, the department will utilize consultant support if additional resources are needed. Consultant services are eligible pass-through expenses paid for by the development community. So with that, I guess what I'm saying to you is that I feel that with the current staffing and hopefully the additional staffing that we'll have and the consultant services that we have on board, that we're confident that we can move forward if that's something you choose to have us do. We continue to improve workflow, our file organization, and utilization of tools that we have already on board. So with that, I'm here for any questions.
And I hope that this works for you.
Well, I know it's been mine, and I appreciate your confidence. I've had it with this thing continuing and want it to be lifted completely or partially. But if you feel confident that you guys can, what I'm hearing is if we did a complete lift of this and went back to normal, you feel confident you can handle it.
We will do our best to make it happen. We have consultant services by Baseline and Jacobs Engineering who are on board with us to provide that support as needed. And knowing that that's a pass-through cost, it doesn't put the town in financial
Right.
fiscal liability.
I felt if you needed to slow the flow, you could always let us know.
But I can absolutely let you know if there's an issue. The ordinance also doesn't require that the cases be reviewed in 5 days.
Right.
So I think that based on the demand, the request that we've heard today, I think we can handle it.
Awesome. Thank you.
Okay, are there any other council members that would like to ask any questions or make any comments?
Where do we stand with the staffing?
So we are finishing up the last recruitment for the planner 2 position. We have approximately, I think we have last I looked at it, 8 applications. 2 or 3 might be something that we can take a look at. If none are eligible or would fit, we'll just have to retool. I might come back to you and share a recommendation of how we might want to go operate another additional staff person. It's really important that we have a full staff moving forward, especially with the comprehensive plan exercise that we're going to start later this year. So I'm hoping that these candidates will work. If not, I'll come back to you and give you an alternative. We also started here. Oh, yeah. Thank you for reminding me. So if you come business during the day, you get to meet Brooke. Brooke is our planning technician. She's got development and surveying experience. She works at the front counter. She's already fitting with the team. So I've got a good group of people with me.
I'll echo what Jim said, Romanello. I'm happy to hear that you feel confident that you can move forward with this and suspend the suspension, remove the suspension. One thing that I will highlight is, and I'm sure you know this, but I want it for everybody to hear the importance of hiring like the right people. So don't feel pressured to just hire anybody to put in the position. And you've done that with Planner 1, I believe. So you went back to the drawing board on that. So if you have to go back to the drawing board for the Planner 2 position, by all means, you have my support. I won't speak for the whole board. I think the council probably feels the same, but I'll let them speak to that. I'm in favor of either removing it completely or removing it in a graduated format. But I'll listen to you. If you're good with removing it completely, then I'm good. Thank you.
Okay, so what if we release this and you get 25 applications submitted? Do you know what's hanging out there? Do you have any idea?
Not heard any indication there are 25 applications waiting. Average, I'm probably guessing it's less than 5.
Okay.
The market has slowed down. There is demand for some specific projects. I'm pretty confident that I don't have 20 projects waiting for it. If there are, we have a process in place. We have consultants on board to assist. And we'll do our best to bring those to you after doing a thorough review and exam of the proposals and being made in accordance with their code. And we'll do the best we can. What's nice about having an additional staff member now is I'm able to spend a little more time training my planner 1. And then hopefully I can bring in a planner 2, and now I can actually start working on succession planning and building a department. So and I've already, I think one of you already mentioned that if I run into a problem, I'm pretty comfortable coming back to you, letting you know.
Okay. So just to get this out there on the record, and it's been on the record, and you and I've had these conversations. What concerns me, this doesn't maybe necessarily have a lot to do with the moratorium, but in some ways it does. What concerns me is the infrastructure that we have in the town right now, and that we are getting a bit overwhelmed, especially on these roads. And over the years, we haven't collected enough impact fees to pay for any of those. In our road fund right now, we have about $350,000, I think. And I got this off of the audit, so it's fairly close. We don't have a renewable water fund. We have 200-ish thousand in our park fees. We got 120,000 in our community development fees. Only 119,000 in our storm drainage fees, and our conservation trust is a little over 250, which doesn't really go very far. And my concerns are that we haven't addressed these impact fees. And long before you got here, I've been bringing up the fact that our impact fees are substantially less than surrounding communities. So I just don't want to get too far behind the 8 ball on that, to where we have to bond for all of our road improvements because the impacts from development haven't paid for themselves, and then it's on the taxpayers to pick it up. So where do we go with that? How do we get that moving?
So I'm in the process of seeing some rough estimates on what it would cost to do a solid analysis of water tap fees and impact fees, so that we can help justify increasing or charging those impact fees properly. I'm hoping to have that by either July 15th or the following meeting, so we can have that conversation during budgeting.
Awesome.
I don't want us to be in the position of making up a fee.
Right.
Because we won't be able to support that if it's ever challenged. Or justify that if it's ever challenged. So we want to make sure we have a full study. And so I've got a couple consultants that I'm talking to right now with about that, and I know Tom Ash is also reaching out to talk about that. You have the ability to make changes to those fees, even to those projects that are already in the system, are already going through the review process. We're going to make sure we're going to place a note on the application, letting developers know, or any private investors know that the fees are subject to change.
Okay.
So we'll do our best.
And by the way, for the record, I understand that we can't go back in time, and I don't expect the people moving forward to make up for lost money that we've had in there, but anything that we can do to mitigate further damage, because, as you know, we don't have the money for Jackson Creek Parkway. Old Denver's going to be in trouble at some point, and Baptist, it's not in our purview, but it's already starting to get pretty overloaded. And, it's just, we got to be, diligent in how we do this. And, for you guys that are sitting out here, I mean, I do understand you guys have money in this and carrying costs and all that. So not up here trying to hurt you guys. But we just can't, we got to figure out how to pay for this stuff. Okay. That's all I have.
Any other comments or questions?
What he said.
Ditto.
Okay, well, this is a public hearing item. So since we've heard from Dan, are there members of the public that would like to speak? Mr. Chapman. You could be so kind as to, when you get a chance, fill in everything so we can harass you later. That'd be great. Yeah.
Brock Chapman, Shuck Communities. Thank you for the opportunity to speak tonight. I'll keep it brief, at least relative to my comments in January. I did go back and look at the hearing from January 16th today to make sure that was updated and my memory was correct. And as has been discussed here, this moratorium was always couched in terms of staffing issues. So, since that time, well, we back up. The action that I would appreciate tonight is the business community and development community definitely work with y'all to try to give a little breathing room and catch up and staff up. So I would respectfully request that you end the land use application moratorium in full on July 15th, as was always planned and always the case. And the justification is that referring back to the January 16th hearing was a full-time planning director has now been hired. Other planning staff have been added. You'll have a planner one, and I believe administrative tech, I don't know if that's the correct terminology. He hired a competent outside planning consultant firm to help with the planning reviews baseline. They've been helping with the existing backlog and can continue to assist in that regard as well. Further, as you said, what happens if you get 25 applications right off the top? I don't think that's going to happen, but that's the concern if we continue to leave it away. If you just get more picked up than has to when the moratorium is. Here comes more. We talked about that, I think, in January. So now would be a good time. The planning director himself, very capable gentleman, just said that the planning staff can handle any applications and moving things forward. So in summary, the original stated position and the stated reason for the land use application moratorium has now largely been addressed. The staffing issues have largely been solved and are continuing to be added to. And I'll go on record for one other item. In the ordinance, you'll have an exhibit B, which was the list of all the projects that were, I'll call them not subject to the moratorium to proceed forward. Of that list, I will just let, maybe this is more for Dan, the planning director, on our Connexus project, it says comments delivered to applicant, those have gone away. So they're off the list completely. And then the Lost Island filing 3 has already gone through the process. You all, I think, approved that a couple of council meetings ago. So that's an off the list. So there's 3 right off the top that are no longer having to be managed by the planning department and or the planning consultants. So we will have to start anew if anything really start. Happy to answer any questions, but I thank you for your time and consideration. Appreciate it. I'll do it in this moratorium. Thank you.
Thank you.
We have one person who is online. I think that's Tom Blanc. Could you allow?
Yes,
Okay.
Hello, can you hear me?
We can hear you, Mr. Blanc.
All right, thank you. Yeah, this is Tom Blanc with CP Real Estate Capital, representing Falcon Commerce Center. I'll make it brief. Brock and I are on the same wavelength, share pretty much all the same comments. Just wanted the council to understand how important this is to move forward. We've had our property rights to develop on hold now for almost 6 months. and specifically, we have a deal in the balance that, is in jeopardy of being lost if we cannot submit. We've been ready to submit for a couple months. It sounds like from what Mr. Ungerleider said, that he's in a good position to move everything forward. So I just wanted to reiterate how important it is at this stage to lift the moratorium and get back to business here. So thank you for your time and consideration.
Thank you, Mr. Block.
Thank you.
Is there anybody else here that would like to?
I mean, it's super nature game, but I'm here tonight representing the HBA Public Springs. And when you guys considered this moratorium back a while, I was here as well to speak on behalf of the HBA. And no surprise, we are hoping that you will end the moratorium. And part of what I talked about last time was here, just the message that I sent, and you guys all know that. And you guys have reasons for why we need a good moratorium. And I fully accepted that. As Brock was just saying, you've taken care of most of that, right? So we feel like you're, at least from our perspective, see like you're in a good spot right now. But it doesn't, if you were to extend the moratorium, the message that sends to development history is obviously not good. And I think that I live in the area. Like, I want to see good businesses come to this area. And when you start doing that and extend moratoriums, it sends a really bad message to the community. And then people say, look, I'm not going to come and invest my money in this community. And that's not good. That's not good for any of us in this position. If you were to decide to extend it or do something like that, at a minimum, we request that you would phase it in, like was mentioned earlier, some sort of a phasing in, but really, it doesn't seem like at this point that would be necessary either. It seems like we would be able to move forward. So with that, I'll keep it brief. I just want to point out a few things. Thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank
Ma'am?
you.
I'm here to see you. Close. Good evening, I'm Caitlin Quander with Brownstein. I'm here tonight representing Thompson Thrifty Commercial. And they have commercial projects that are eager to get going on either side of I-25 on the east and west. On the west, they have 3 commercial end users ready, willing and able to begin the process to obtain approvals and permits. And on the east side, they have a national retailer waiting to kick off a 30-acre development that'd have more than 250,000 square feet of commercial, and that would provide jobs and sales tax revenue to the town. And I think, as you mentioned, Mayor Pro Tem, I think allowing development to proceed would certainly pick up the ability to collect those sales taxes and impact fees that you were mentioning that are important. So we are here tonight requesting that you let the current moratorium expire on July 15th as planned. At the time of that January ordinance, the town was down 2 employees. It now has 4, including the new planning director, and is looking to hire that final slot soon. The moratorium gave the planning department the breathing room it needed, as you heard tonight. However, 6 months has now passed, and it's appropriate for the town to again begin accepting and processing those applications. As was shared earlier, moratoriums really do give a negative signal to the market and to development and create a real unpredictability that makes people shy away from investing in this community. And that's not what we want to see. So as mentioned, you were ahead of me in the game talking about one suggestion was to use your pay consultants. I think that's worked well to ease the backlog. And it sounds like the planning director is already thinking in that same line to use those if needed. So with that, we request that you let the current moratorium expire or vote to deny the ordinance before you this evening. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Is there, does Andrea want to say anything?
I just have a couple of things to say. I'm Gala with NES, and as you know, I represent multiple of the developers to the community. And I will say with confidence, including TriView and others, and I would say with confidence, there aren't 25 projects lined up to come into the planning department. I'd say it's more within that, maybe five-ish projects, and they will probably come in at various at a pace. That's not going to be everything's coming in on July 15th, and maybe more that does that. But the others I think will kind of gradually come in, as we haven't even had 8 pre-application meetings. I think a lot of people are actually just waiting to be able to have those pre-app meetings, get feedback from staff, and be able to start moving their projects forward. I did also look at the list, and I noted the 2 projects that Mr. Chapman referred to have actually finished, and they should have been withdrawn when that happened back in February. So we will be submitting a letter tomorrow to formally withdraw the 2 Conexus filing 2 Lot 1 applications, which were fairly substantial projects. And so of the list of 31 that you have here, there are only 16 that are remaining active, and 16, as having been a former city planner myself, 16 is a workload of 1 person. I mean, usually would be doing 20 to 25 projects because they're all in different stages of review. Some are in the first stage of review, some are out to consultant to the applicants that are responding to comments, some are going back out to other agencies, so they're not all on the planner's desk at the same time to review. So I just wanted to bear that in mind, that there is a kind of varied workload within that. And so I just wanted to add those additional comments for perspective.
Thank you.
That's all I have.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Is there anybody else who'd like to make a comment for or against the ordinance or? No? Okay, I'll bring it back to the council for further discussion.
I have a question for Mr. Cole. Mr. Cole, if we just wanted this to end on July 15th, it would seem to me that we just wouldn't do anything. Is that correct?
I would recommend, for an absolute clear record, a motion to deny approving the ordinance.
Okay. I'm just curious. Thank you.
Yes.
Any other questions?
If we phased it out, how would that look? Not loud enough.
Well, I believe at the time, and I don't know if Councilmember King has notes, but there was specific items in the January meeting that were called out, like pre-application meetings was one of them. I think final PUDs may have been a second.
Yeah, I think we had pre-applications, plats. I think road improvements were always an exception to this.
No one's improved our roads, I can tell you.
Nobody
105
improved those.
105 is not improved yet.
And I think use by right, like zoned lots and maybe final PUD, something like that. I mean, I don't know that it matters that much, quite frankly.
I would like to see it go and let's stop kicking the can down the road and.
Sure.
Get our feet wet and see what happens, I guess.
Get our toes wet.
Okay,
With all that, I'll move to deny ordinance number 13/2024, an ordinance extending the temporary suspension of accepting new applications under the Town of Monument Land Development Code.
Second.
we have a motion and a second. Ms. Erickson.
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem King,
Yes.
Councilmember Kimball,
Yes.
Councilmember Romanello.
Yes.
Councilmember Abbott,
Yes.
Mayor LaKine,
Yes,
Councilmember Chronic.
Yes.
that motion was denied 7-0. That ordinance. Double negative.
You got to get a, so
I want to make sure now also that the development community hears that we're going to be restarting. I want them to be patient. I want them to work with us. I want to make sure that their subcontractors and designers submit full, well thought out applications. I will not hesitate sending stuff back that's not completed. I will not hesitate on making recommendations to deny projects that do that potentially cause harm or cause a financial liability or risk to the community. And I also will not hesitate coming back to you saying we might need to reconsider, this isn't working. I want to make sure that we're protected going forward, that we're collecting our fees and our impact fees and tap-on fees, and that we're doing a service to the public as well as property owners and business owners who are already in town. So thank you for allowing me to say that, and I hope we can make this all work.
and
Thank you.
thanks for saying that.
Yeah.
'Cause,
Yes.
quite frankly, nobody's ever said that to us, and I'm
Yeah, we appreciate, and
really happy that you're on the same page.
I think I think that if I think I might be able to speak for the entire board saying that, you know, this is a real vote of confidence in you, your team and staff. So I hope that everybody else agrees with that. All right.
Okay, so moratorium officially lifted. July 15th, right. For those watching at home or printing things out in newspapers and things like that. Next up, resolution 41, 2024. It's a resolution of the Town of Monument protesting the rezoning of Monument Ridge East in El Paso County. This is none other than Mayor Pro Tem King.
Okay, well, the backstory on this a little bit is that that our planning director came to me and said that he thought that this was appropriate to do. And so I put my thoughts down on paper. He massaged them and added a whole bunch of language to this. So kudos to you, Dan, because you did a great job in pulling this all together for what my intention was on this. Now, regarding Monument Ridge East, everybody knows the story of that and that they came to us and we denied getting annexed into the town. And I still believe it should be part of the town. It impacts us with emergency services and other things, but there was no negotiation on their part, and it doesn't meet the intent of our comprehensive plan. Douglas County is protesting it. The police department, Monument Police Department, don't have the staff for it. It doesn't meet the El Paso County master plan for suburban place type. There's no preservation of any natural features there whatsoever. There's wetlands on that property that are going to go away or get contaminated. And there's a 36,000 acre conservation easement to the north that is also concerned about the drainage from the impervious surfaces going into that area and polluting a working cattle ranch. I'm not trying to kill the project. This resolution is not about that. This resolution is about taking this from straight zoning that doesn't fit the area. And there are plenty of protests from the neighbors around there. There's an online petition that has over 1,000 signatures on it. And turn this into a PUD where it has the support of the neighborhood, because they'll be able to along the way through different public hearings, express their concerns. The PUD will allow for parks and trails, which this has none of, and the preservation of trees, and to make less of an impact on this property that is also the gateway to El Paso County coming out of that 36,000 acre conservation easement. So I would ask for support on this. We will send this to El Paso County and it will become part of the packet that will go to the Planning Commission and ultimately to the county commissioners.
All right, thank you. I just was wondering, for the remainder of the year, are there any more whereases available, or have we used them all up? There's
still a
20,
there's
26 whereases we've used up. I thought we had.
We can find a couple, and we can scare up a couple more.
Look, I went to the meeting at the barn. Obviously sat here during the meeting with the applicant when we tried to convince him to go into the town with the PUD. I think this is a good use of our voice to our county commissioners and the planning commission for the county. I think they can do better. The applicant can do better. And if they choose not to, then at least we made our peace. We stated what we think. I think it's a great resolution to send up.
I think I don't disagree with what you said, but a better use of our voice would have been to annex it in the town and work with them following annexation.
Except that we would be annexing it as a straight zone district, which is the exact same project that they have right here. And
We
we
tried.
would have
Yep.
no say on how it got developed.
We offered multiple opportunities to reduce the size.
I'm gonna repeat ish. I'll paraphrase myself from the last meeting. Because I was told, well, we can't control what the county does. The county has a track record of not really having a lot of interest. I'll say it that way, of this area of the county. I mean, they've proven it over and over again. And so the best way to affect something is to control it. And anyway, what's done is done. I'm not against voicing our opinion as a town. I think we should, absolutely. That's important. But the county doesn't have a very stellar track record when it comes to northern El Paso County.
Well, and Councilmember Fiorito, I agree with you. However, we did give it a chance. I mean, we tried really hard to come to some kind of a compromise, and we were met stonewalled at each and every turn. And that just says to me that even had we annexed, we had no control. So, you know, this is a kind of a toss-up. This is damned if you do and damned if you don't, really. But I think right now, this is the route to go.
At this point, there's no other route to go.
Right. Yeah.
I mean, let's send the message. That's all you're doing is sending a message.
Anyway, I will make a motion to approve resolution 41/40/2024. If there's no other comments or questions. A resolution of the town of Monument protesting the rezoning of Monument Ridge East in El Paso County.
Second.
Ms. Erickson, we have a motion and a second.
Councilmember Chronic,
Yes.
Councilmember Romanella,
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem King,
Yes.
Councilmember Abbott,
Yes.
Councilmember Fiorito,
Yes.
Mayor LaKine,
Yes,
Councilmember Kimball.
Yes.
that motion passes 7-0.
Once again, thank you, Dan.
Yeah, thank you, Dan.
Very welcome.
All right, next up is resolution 42/2024, resolution approving the Monument Police Department step and grade reinstatement and pay compression correction. If I'm not mistaken, this is a long time coming.
Chief Regal.
Chief Regal.
Did adopt a step and grade for my several years ago that we deviated from before I got here. Can't tell you when, can't tell you why, but I'm just telling you where we are today. I started here in May. I believe the budget was due in October, probably. Not a whole lot of time for me to get my feet. But the minute I did, I've been working on getting this through everything. So thank you for your time. Not to insult anyone's intelligence, but just briefly, step and grade program describes the exact monetary compensation a person earns at a job that uses a pay grade. This type of system is secured, preset, guaranteed, and does not involve salary negotiation. Step and grade systems have multiple steps or levels, each of which has transparent requirements. And information about these predetermined salaries, levels, and steps are available to all employees and are often accessible to the public as well. It's our current policy. I'll just read it for you. All full-time employees are eligible for pay for performance, discretionary bonuses based on their performance. The exception to this is sworn police officers who are subject to a step and grade increase. All supervisors must utilize the standard evaluation form available from human resources. That's what our policy is already. I'm not asking policy, I'm asking you back to it. Step and grade increases our financial compensation made to sworn officers on their anniversary date with the approval by their supervisor. For patrol officers, SIG increases occur years 1 through 5. Again, I'm not asking you to change. For corporals and sergeants, SIG increases occur from their promotional year to year 4. I am actually asking to remove that, and that's not really part of this presentation, but those ranks aren't experiencing the pay compression and compensation issues as officers. So if there were to be a change made to that, it would be down the road. I'm just focusing on the officer grade. Again, I stated we departed from the step grade. If you probably remember in 2022, we gave 10% raises across the board. And that was done on January 1st. Again, 2023, 10% raises across the board on January 1st. 2024, 8% raises across the board on January 4th, January 1st. Here's what happened when we did that. We experienced pay compression. Giving all officers their raises on January 1st created a system where an officer hired in January of a certain year will make the same as someone hired in December of the same year, probably having nearly 1 year difference. There was confusion. The officers knew we had a step in grade, and when we departed from it and they got a raise on January 1, they expected a raise on their anniversary date. When that didn't come, there was just confusion about where their pay was going. Nonconformity. Step and grade programs are used throughout the region, actually throughout law enforcement. I usually compare ourselves to 9 agencies in the area. All of them are using a step and grade program. Officers were discouraged. The one item that I didn't pick up on right away, but I've certainly picked up on now is that if you had 3 years of service with another agency, I would bring you in at a rate that was lower than if you had 3 years here. That's discouraging, and that was an oversight, and I need to correct it. And this program will help me do that. Uncertainty. We're caught. We count our money. We know what we're going to make in 5 years. We know what our retirement's going to be. We have it all planned out. I changed that. We changed it when you get it from the step and grade program. Pay compression. I'd like to thank the council. You've done a great job of giving us raises. I really have never seen a 28% raise in 3 years. The problem was we didn't do our homework to secure the back end, and that I have my officers, their pay just got compressed, which we'll go over it later. But the biggest one is my 4-year officer, which is my most tenured officer, by the way, 4 years, is making the same amount of money as a lateral officer that came over, even before they hit their 1 year with us. The next was my 3-year officers make the same as my 2-year officer. So you'll see shortly exactly what I'm talking about. So reinstating it will allow us to conform just with our current policy. Corporals and above, as I stated, are not going to be included because there's no, not saying there's no compression issues. It's just, it's not as prevalent as you see it in the officer rank. The true step and grade program will ensure officers are compensated equitably according to their time and grade. At the time of re-implementation of the SIG program, officers will immediately be placed in their appropriate staff. Giving raises on anniversary dates will ensure officers are properly paid according to the step they're in. Now, I'll add to that giving raises all on January 1st means we're paying the entire salary, increased salary for the year, right? If you are an officer that started in May, I wouldn't have to pay that raise until May. So I'm using funds we have available now to defer costs later. I know it sounds weird to say we're giving more money to save money next year, but we truly are. And it's using savings we have now. I put July 15th because I believe that's the next day. Sworn officers whose hire dates have passed will move to their appropriate step and grade. Others will move to their step and grade on their hire date anniversary. If an officer's hire date anniversary is already passed, that officer will be eligible for back pay, back to their start date. The step and grade range will go from starting to 5 years, just like our policy says. I like to equate it as, in fact, Lieutenant Owens helped me explain this, that it's like getting on a ladder. Before you get on it, you're not on a step, right? That's where you start. And then you have 5 rungs that you can go up to. If you get to rung 5, you hit the top. Make sense? Good. If it made sense to me, I know it made sense to you. Going forward, officers and orders get a 2nd grade raise of 6%. Their higher day and anniversary until they reach the top of their pay range. I'll show you why I came up with that number. If the council were to approve something over 6%, say a COLA market adjustment, something of that nature, that raise would be paid on January 1, and it would increase the pay range by that amount. Make sense? And as I stated, supervisors would still be getting their raises on January 1st, just like they are now, and it's discretionary paid for them. Okay. Here's our scale that I came up with. For starting officers would be at just under 65,000 and a top out of 87,000. But if you would take a look at the information just below that. So I told you before, I compare us to 9 other agencies. If you'd like me to rattle them off, I can't. So I apologize. I could give you the gist. EPSO, Colorado Springs, Manitou, Woodland, Douglas County, Parker, Castle Rock. Not to say we'll ever be where those agencies are, but my goal is to try to get close and then bridge the gap with the benefits we have here that other people don't have. Looking at those other agencies, the average starting salary is $72,000. You can see it'd still be $7,000 below, but we're catching up. The average top out for those neighboring agencies is nearly $97,000. We're about $10,000 below, but we're catching up. The average step and grade raise for all those agencies is 7.81%, which is why I came up with 6% to get us close. This is a fix that will fix what is happening today and sustain us into the future. But those numbers are going up at every other agency too, and we need to keep pace. This is the first step in doing that. Costs. These are all my officers here, all 18. If you look in the middle, you'll see years, right? My most senior officer has 4 years. He's at 71,000. Go down to 11, 12, 13, and 14. Those are brand new officers that just started. They had 3 years elsewhere and making more than my 4-year officer. The next thing you'll see is my 2 3-year officers, and the 2-year officers below, they're making the same exact amount of money. This program not only puts us on a step and grade, but it corrects that pay compression. Go to the next slide. Based on some hiring delays and some strategic hiring delays, we have salary savings that cover this cost. The administrative assistant who just started with us, her vacancy saved us $43,000 in the first half of the year. Police officer vacant for 5 months is $45,000, and my police aide, with people coming and going, about 2 months at $13,000, which is an overall savings of just over $100,000. We're asking for $80,000 to cover not just moving them to the correct step, but paying their back pay. 2025, utilizing, like I said, utilizing salary savings this year will reduce the financial impact next year by pushing those raises, not all on January 1, but to various times throughout the year. In fact, if we went back to the spreadsheet, you can see some of them are mid-year, some of them are end of year, which is different savings for each person. With that, I would ask that you approve this resolution to correct those discrepancies, but I also want to maybe put a little thought in your mind about
going forward and our vision of what we want to do to compete in the region. First thing I would ask is that we all get together and determine which agencies we compare to. I'd like to have my own ideas. I'm sure you have yours. In law enforcement, it doesn't really work well to say we compare to an agency like, throw it out there, Littleton, right? We're not close to them. I'm not losing officers to them. Not saying we have the same population, but imagine there was a monument-sized agency in another county far, far away. Doesn't help for me to compare to them. What I like to compare to are the nearby agencies that I'm actually losing people. There's some agencies like the State Patrol that we're just not going to be able to pay. I think they started in the 90s and top out in the 110s. It's not what I'm asking for. I'm asking to get close to those little agencies like Manitou and Woodland and CSPD and EPSO that are taking our people and getting us close.
So that at least isn't a factor. I know I've lost 2 officers recently that came to me and said a lot of it was about the pay. I don't want to hear that anymore. So this helps us move forward. Again, we would take those agencies that we agreed upon and just come up with averages. And we would try to meet that average, right? Or at least come together and decide, where do we want to fall in a group of 10? Do we want to be at the bottom, the middle, or the top? I'm not asking for your answer tonight, but I'm hoping it's towards the top. Yeah, and then we currently have a corporal rank, which it's not that it's not a functional rank or necessary, it's just with the size of our police department, we have too many ranks. And my goal is to promote people from officer to sergeant going forward. Corporals will stay corporals. I'm not taking their rank away. I'm not taking their pay away. They'll always have a pay advantage against an officer. But it kind of streamlines the organization and sets us on a good path going forward with growth that is coming. Should probably really soon now that we just denied that ordinance. But yeah, it'll put us on a better spot. My goal, and I hopefully you remember, I said I'm going to have 24-hour supervisory coverage, and we have it. I want to maintain it, and I want to make it easier for them. And with that, we promote additional officers to sergeant just to cover our 6 patrols. If you recall back to the 2 F days, we talked about the 5th squad and spending money on a 5th squad, which would basically handle detective duties. And I think at the time it was car break-ins and burglaries and stuff like that. So taking what the voters had asked for and kind of streamlining it to what we need today. That now 7th squad, because I've created 6 squad, would be 7th squad, which would be our community resource officer, which is Kelly Fisher. I'm sure you all know her. The detective, 2 school resource officers, and our police service aides. I would need a sergeant to run all that group. With that, do you have any questions for me?
All right, well, thank you for that presentation. You put a lot of time and energy and detail, and I'm assuming that all of this is checks and balances with finance, and Mona has given her blessing that this is completely possible without a restated budget.
Mayor, we do have to restate the budget. It's part of the process, but they do have the savings the chief mentioned, and it's possible to happen.
Okay, so when would we expect to see a restated budget to deal with this?
The amended budget or restated budget, it's usually done around October, November timeframe.
Okay,
So you will see all these changes.
excellent. All right.
And like, I didn't add, but that was part of our discussion in the end, just trying to keep it all above the board and have you involved with a decision with money that wasn't budgeted.
I have 2 questions. First one, and this is for you as well as Mona. What's the possibility of bringing it to 7% or 6.5%, essentially closer to that average? Because I saw that the savings is 101 and you're essentially looking to spend 80.
Yeah.
So is it in the realm of the possible to get it closer to 7%?
Yeah.
To 7%.
So
Well, even, let me jump on that, because I wrote down a note to ask, what if it was brought up to 8%? That's above.
I love it, and hopefully everybody realizes that's the support we have from this council.
But if it was, I'm just saying,
It starts compressing into the starting pay.
Gotcha. Okay.
So 6% gave us that. I'd like to have a good buffer of 5% between ranks. And that's kind of what I said, if we wanted to do other changes with like the sergeants, that would have to be another conversation.
Okay.
Now, if we're talking about bumping sergeants, lieutenants, commanders.
Gotcha.
But that's a big check right there. So
Okay.
I felt comfortable with 80. I'll be completely honest, we have salary savings elsewhere that I'm trying to use to buy cars too. Trying to balance all that. I felt 6% was a good starting point and fair, and it gives people a good bump today. It makes them whole from their last anniversary, but I really can't thank you enough for bringing that up.
So in your budget, I mean, you found the money. So why do we even need to go through this? You can't just move money from one line to another. You have to restate the budget because of that.
That's my understanding. And as I stated, I just want to be completely above board to say, you know, especially in the position I'm in today, I didn't want to make it look like I came through with the magic wand and just started paying my people.
Right.
I wanted to at least put it on record and hear from you. Do you support it and are you okay with it? And if not, we go back to the drawing board, but I didn't feel comfortable just making a move on my own.
No, and I appreciate that. I was just kind of trying to understand the process of that, but
If I
I
may,
appreciate it.
this is not the only change, so we have to restate the budget regardless. There are other changes. This is gonna be part of the restated budget. So if you're asking because you're thinking this process will create more work for finance, it's just another item we have to take in consideration. We already have other changes. So the restatement of the budget, it's still required, not only because of SID, but other changes.
I was just looking at it like you have a line item for salaries, and how you move those salaries around within your budget seems like you'd have that freedom. That's all right.
Stays within the salary. No, you don't have to restate that line item. It's only if Chief Regan is gonna move some money from let's say health insurance, and I know none of the choices he showed mention health insurance. So if it's just salary, like you said, no, you don't have to restate that line item, because the saving is just by not hiring someone for a period of time, but it's still in the same account. So there is no need to restate that line item.
Okay,
It's only if we move money from one account to the other.
sure.
And just for clarity, Mona, restating a budget really isn't an unusual event, correct? Okay, so we don't need to really make a big deal out of it, right?
I was just trying to see if we could do it simpler without it, that's all.
There's no way.
Oh.
No, I had one more question, regarding the, when you, reappropriate officers from other agencies. Using military terms, if it's not nailed down, is there a process, or is it, I don't know what the proper term is. Is it appropriate to bring them in with that time, not necessarily time and grade, but time and service in that other agency, or do they start fresh? Like what's the?
So we have a cutoff of 3 years experience. If you have 3 years elsewhere, we actually have a step that we.
Okay.
Step 2 here. But if you had 3 years in this agency, you would move to step 3.
Gotcha.
So it's kind of rewarding, I don't want to say loyalty, but it's rewarding loyalty and for people staying put to say, we're going to give you one bump above that because you did your time here.
Okay, but they don't get punished for the time that they did elsewhere.
No.
Punished is probably too strong of a
Well,
word,
so
but
the one thing, I think I understand your question, but if you had 1 or 2 years, you would start at our bottom pay.
gotcha. Okay,
So I guess, yeah, if you look at it for being punished, I get it. But that's the system we have. I'm not saying it's perfect, and it's definitely something we can look at because sometimes there's steps too. The problem you get in with that, even with the 3 years to say, okay, well, I had 2 years and 364 days. Did I miss it? You know, so, and that's actually what I love about the stepping grade. I don't have to make those cutoffs to say, you didn't make your year. It's like, no, this is when you were hired. This is when you get your raise.
gotcha. Thank you.
What are other agencies, do they go by the same rules, if you will?
As far as.
Yeah, and what you just described.
Yes.
Well, the stepping grade, yeah, that's pretty prevalent in the region, but also just throughout the country. In fact, the agency I came from had stepping grade as well.
So this resolution, if you're gonna have to put it on an amended agenda in the fall, is this resolution just simply saying that we want to address it then? It's not right now saying take the 80 grand and fix it. Is that correct? What's this resolution going to do right now? If
It's going to
we,
give us the ability on July 15th to make pay changes.
Yes.
okay,
I mean-
okay, and then, and then that'll be immediate and then it'll be stated in the fall. Is that right?
Yeah.
Okay, I just want to clarify.
Because it's a deviation from what going into the year.
Okay, got it.
But it implements the SIG.
Yes.
Implements
From-
it
okay.
As soon as we can, probably the next pay cycle, and then we'll have a lot of paperwork to do for finance and.
Well, you get paid the big bucks.
Chief Regal.
I have a quick question.
Right.
Oh, no, you go ahead.
I have two.
Oh,
But
Thank you. How do you guys measure the performance?
So a stepping grade doesn't actually. But my counter to that is you have to perform to keep your job.
What is performing? Like, how do you quantify that? I mean, what is it? Well,
No.
I've been ticketed a long time ago by PD.
That was Mayor Pro Tem Steve King for the record.
I just didn't know if there were certain like categories and checkpoints or something like that.
28 performance is
28.
But that's actually a work in progress too, and I'm working with Emily on integrating our performance system into Bamboo and streamlining that. So it'd be like customer service, communication, job skill, all that kind of stuff.
Thank you.
So, two questions, and it's not necessarily for you, Chief, it's more for, finance. Because we're talking about, not that I'm against this at all, but just out of curiosity. Because we're talking about the July 15th payday, is that, I mean, is it legal? Is it, because that's within a 2-week time frame, or is there?
It's legal.
Okay.
Based on my knowledge, it's gonna be a lot of work on us also, because we have to calculate all the pays that we have to make to our officers.
Okay. And question number 2 is, have we also looked at how this will affect pensions and investing? If we're doing like a match, you know, if there's a pay increase, does that increase the town having to put in for?
Yeah, so all the numbers I gave you include all of that.
Okay.
Yeah.
Good to
The
know.
first point, and that's a good point, probably you hear from me, one of that, it is a lot of work. And the number doesn't change, right? I'm either giving you that pay or I'm giving you that back pay.
Yeah.
So if I go farther out and I don't give you the pay, I give you more back pay. If you need more time to implement it, we can take more time to implement.
And if I may say, that was when I was working with Chief Regan, that was my concern, the FPPA, the pension for police. Because you have to make it right. So, but I think we figured it out at this point.
I'm not against this at all, but it seems like a short amount of time. So she'd have to go through this for each officer and determine.
Well, no, I will do that. I will, well.
Not like you have any other jobs?
Just do math on the side.
Okay.
What I do, we have a personnel action notice, which is just a form that I fill out to say, Officer X is moving to this pay rate. It is effective this date. And if it's predated, she'll know that's a back pay. What she does with her finance team is crunch those numbers to determine, okay, if you should have been making that on this date, what do we owe you for not?
Oh, got it.
I think the question is, and you want, and I don't want to speak for you, but is staff comfortable with this adjustment? Is that kind of what you're just saying, Sam? I mean, are you guys comfortable with this adjustment? Okay.
Is that
No.
gonna?
Okay.
So Chief Regan reached out to me. At first, I was thinking this would be impossible because you have to go back, you have to see how many overtime, campaign, it's a lot. And then for each officers, and then you have to apply the percentage and whatever change happened. And then FPPA, and then life insurance and all of these. But then we, Lori in my team and myself, we went to the drawing board and kind of worked with Cassell to see what kind of reports we can get. So we were able to simplify some of the steps necessary to bring them back to what they should have been paid. And I think even a PPA should be not as painful, but I think it's feasible, but it's gonna be a lot of work. And also between this time, we have a holiday and we have a budget presentation, so it's a lot on us.
Like I said,
It's about.
we work with them, it just changes the numbers. It doesn't change the overall number, it changes
Sure.
before and after numbers.
Well, and it sounds like it's not super critical that it's done by the 15th. You just have to adjust it later, right?
And this isn't unheard of. I mean, we've done this recently first.
Sure.
So it's doable, but I will say, I would have never presented this if I didn't have Mona support.
Of
In
course.
fact, I couldn't have because, tell you, she called me, I think on the weekend to say that she was behind it, which meant the world to me because I knew what I was asking for. In fact, I told her, let's not do it. She called and said they wanted to do it. So you didn't make me tear up.
I guess, so the 15th, it's less than 2 weeks, not even less than that because of the holiday. Are you guys, the town hall's closed, right, on the 4th?
Finance has a tendency to work whatever hours they want to. Have to. Good, good. Right, so Sen, if they say they can do it, I trust they can. I can tell you from conversations with Chief Regal that this is the delay. This should not have been delayed. So we should
Sure.
fix this as soon as we can.
Well, then with that, I'd like to make a resolution to pass, a motion to pass resolution 42, 2024, resolution approving the monument police step-in grade reinstatement and pay compression correction.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Ms. Erickson.
Yes.
Thought I said your name wrong.
I didn't hear it right.
Okay.
Sorry.
We're good. Councilmember Romanella?
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem King?
Yes.
Councilmember Abbott?
Yes.
Councilmember Fiorito?
Aye.
Mayor LaKai?
Aye.
Councilmember Kimball?
Definitely yes.
Congratulations. You have a pass resolution.
Thank you. When nobody ever claps for us.
Go get some speed.
All right, next up, we have a discussion item on lodging tax. Are you going to do your presentation from back there, or are you going to?
Sophia is gonna go over the numbers.
Oh, Sophia's on the.
She's on. We just want to remind the town council.
Hang on, Mona. No, I just waiting for them to take their noise down the hallway.
You gotta leave it open, John. John, you gotta leave it open. You have to leave it open.
Okay, go ahead.
Meetings ago, and I can't remember the date exactly. You had asked us what the expected revenue should be if we implement or will be if we implement the lodging tax, and also what the expected expenses will be. We put together a presentation to give you this information, so then if you decide to go forward with the lodging tax, you will have more tangible numbers behind it, which hopefully will help you decide what percentage of lodging tax you would like to go with. So I will let Sophia go over the numbers.
Good evening, council members. Hopefully you can hear me okay.
Yes.
Great. So we looked at several jurisdictions around the town of Monument to come up with the overall rates that are charged on short-term lodging, which is generally lodging that is at hotels, motels, trailer parks, things like that, everything under 30 days. So in Colorado, for the most part, any lodging under 30 days is taxed at the sales tax level for state of Colorado across the board. So I added in on this screen the total rates around Monument combined. So some cities and towns have a specific lodging tax, which is the second to last line above the totals. And then other cities apply a sales tax to lodging. So the only city that doesn't apply sales tax to lodging is the city of Lone Tree. But their lodging tax is significantly higher. So this kind of gives you an average of what consumers might be paying near you if they're staying in one area of the county or close to Douglas County, just for perspective. So we can go to the next slide. So what we did is we looked at the current rate applied to lodging for Monument, which is currently being collected by the state of Colorado. It's the 7.63 with no special lodging tax. And that's in the non-regional transportation area or the rural transportation area. If it's in that special area, then there's an additional 1% that's paid to the state of Colorado through the special district there. But your rate is either 7.63 or 8.63 currently. So we proposed having a lodging tax at 2% or 5% to look at these average rates. So the 2% would be a total combined rate of 9.63%. And if they're in the RTA area, it would be an additional 1% on top of that. So if we go back to the last slide, there's an average of, 10, 11, and a few below 8 applied on lodging. So that's just for your consideration and information. A 2% additional lodging tax would be below the average that we have in this group. And then if we go forward to the next slide, we also proposed a rate of 5%. And that was proposed and basically trying to, figure out what kind of budget and revenue numbers we're going to get from this. So we'll continue on with that discussion, but that rate at 5% would be higher than your surrounding areas. So a consideration in between there is all, part of the discussion. So if we can go forward, I'll talk about what revenue looks like when we're talking about these figures. Currently, the percentage of your market that would be collecting lodging tax, we have about 6% coming from truck stops, where truckers might pay an overnight fee to park in a specific spot. And then 94% is coming from hotels and your Expedia Pricelines who sell the hotel rooms as well. And then Airbnb and VRBO are currently reporting sales tax to Monument as well. So looking at the estimated numbers, we took kind of the average number of truck stops that are in Monument plus their spots available to come up with an average rate. And looking at the data in many of these places, they charge around $15 per spot per night. So we came up with around 35 parking spots, $15 a night to get their taxable sales. The first section would be the lodging or the sales tax that you currently have on the lodging for the truck stops is in the second numerical column. And then we added in the additional revenue proposed at the 2% rate. And then on to the right of that would be the additional revenue proposed at the 5% rate. Same thing with the hotels, STRs, and that's short-term rentals and any other third parties like Expedia. We combined that data together from the sales tax revenues, but didn't break it down into details to not disclose confidential information. But it's approximately $4 million of taxable sales a year. So currently you're probably getting about $145,000 in sales tax. And then again, we have proposed the lodging tax revenues at the 2% and 5% rate. I'll pause for a moment. But essentially, if you're looking at a 2% proposal, you might be looking at an additional $88,000 in a year in lodging tax specifically. And then if you had a 5% rate, you'd be looking at additional $221,000 in sale lodging tax from this potential ballot proposal.
So that's the 2%, 5% then that's the number that would go to that to the special fund that we would designate.
Yeah, and there's a 3.5% one there too, right?
Well, that's the sales tax.
Oh, okay, I
Yeah.
got you. All right,
That's the sales tax that we collect today.
gotcha.
Then the 88 or 221 would be what goes to this park fund X, whatever X.
Or anywhere in the middle.
Yeah, or yeah.
I have a question on how did you determine how many short-term rentals were in the town of Monument?
Well, some of the short-term rentals, we can look out on Airbnb for the next few months. I counted just on Airbnb 20 available in June and July. And sometimes it's a little hard to see the total boundaries because they don't disclose the address until you get there. But in the monument area, in the mapping area, I was able to kind of guesstimate.
Okay. And
Go ahead.
well, obviously for compliance purposes, if we get to this point, we would have to be 100% accurate on them. And we'll get to that later, but hotels, we only have one. So did we call them and ask them how many rooms they have and what their regular occupancy is, or?
We actually have their sales tax data for the year of the last year in 2023 up to current periods in 2024. So we averaged their taxable sales and included it within this amount, but didn't want to specifically call them out because we don't want to disclose any confidential information they've made remitted to us.
Is their taxes confidential?
Yes.
Because you can see the success, how profitable they are.
Perfect. Okay. You're chomping at the bit. You got a question?
No. This is good info, especially with the numbers. It helps us better understand what we're actually possibly looking at in terms of, revenue for whatever fund we identify. I guess are we going to talk about the next step after questions, or what's the?
This is just
because it's going to be a ballot.
Yeah, we're just gathering information right now, and there's more info to come that I provided to our acting town managers and Damona. There's some things that came from CML.
Okay.
That are in the business of tracking short-term rentals.
Okay.
So
I do have questions about that in terms of, while we work on the ballot, should we also work on an ordinance to register short-term rentals and whatnot? Like, what's the process? Is that what you're talking about?
Be a lot of staff labor, but
Yeah, we'd have to do that for sure.
yeah, have to do that. Was there other data beyond this? Like what is the town's cost to implement? Is that part of this?
Yes.
It was in the packet.
And just move forward a slide
Can you go to the
or two. So this last is the sources of the info. This is how we came up with those last figures. And then the next slide, I believe, is our estimated costs for programming and lodgers tax.
next slide?
Okay. So with the lodgers tax administration, we have an option currently, because we are in the programming for self-collection for sales tax, that if we add that lodging tax to the process as an additional line on the sales tax return, that there would be minimal costs for the software changes because we're able to currently, designate and test all those fields. So if we had a lodging sales point, which is option A, we anticipate there to be little to no software fees based on our current contract. And the return filing fees would be estimated based on the current fees we have set up for the number of returns at a positive value in the sales tax contract. And then consulting may be related to, organizing with the businesses, the community, getting them information and, working on the implementation of the whole program. But again, it's at this point is not as significant because we are also in the process of doing that for all the sales tax accounts. That's the top lines, is the orange is the first estimated fees. Option B is if we were to add a change order in the future to the software program to add a line to the return after we go live with sales tax. The estimated change order fees are approximately $3,000. And then there's additional consulting fees related to testing and implementation of that changed return. And then the option C would be if we had a separate system or a separate basic tax profile and return that was not just an additional line on the sales tax return, then we estimate it would just be an additional software cost like we have presently for the sales tax, basically paying for another software to do that. So that would be potentially the most expensive. And I'll just add in, the way the ordinance is currently written is the lodging tax is in addition to the sales tax. So businesses could fill out that line on the return if there was if they had lodging sales. And if they didn't have lodging sales, then it would they would have a 0 in that field. So that would be probably the most beneficial for cost purposes for the town to have that as an additional field on the sales tax return instead of creating a whole separate return for these businesses.
Is there more?
So basically what Sophia said, we go with option A, just to prevent the additional cost, unnecessary cost. And if we are deciding not to go with the lodging tax, that's not a problem. We can turn it off, but at least it's there if we want to revisit this, and it's the least expensive option.
Okay. Excellent. Any questions from the council on the presentation?
Just one about the lodging tax, because we did a 2% and a 5%. Why not do like a 3%?
We could do anything we want. They just,
We didn't have any guidance, so we
Okay.
just try, 2% was said in the meeting, but we didn't know how high, and everything else will be kind of in between.
we can make it a 2% tax and a 15% fee. Just kidding. Okay, thank you very much for the presentation.
Thank you.
Thank you.
We will move on to public comment. Sorry?
Oh, direction.
Well,
More direction on lodging.
there's going to be there's one more option that they're going to look at.
Oh, okay.
I will get it written up and sent to Bob and have it shared with the rest of you.
Okay.
Actually, they can share it without Bob. It's just blind, right? It's one other thing to consider. Got to see some artificial intelligence looking at Monument from a short-term rental perspective, and it's pretty cool. We can share all that with you, and you can go to the website and check it out. And
So, sorry, Mike, when is When is the deadline to have the language for the ballot?
September, I think.
September, okay.
All right, we'll go to public comment. Individuals attending in person may raise their hand to indicate their desire to comment. Individuals attending via Teams may raise their hand digitally to comment via connected devices. Please lower your hand when finished with your comments. Comments are limited to 3 minutes. Is there anybody in town hall that would like to make a public comment? Seeing none, we'll move to those online. Would anybody online like to make public comment? Mrs. Regal, maybe? No? That thus ends public comment.
A reminder, 3 minutes.
Next up is council authorization items. We have one, Mr. Cole, request for rescheduling.
Yes, so as you know, we originally had June 25th as a special meeting set to continue Mr. Foreman's performance review. And he had asked for some additional time at that point to prepare for that. And in checking with the council representation or representatives, we went ahead and indicated to him that we could extend beyond June 25th. He actually has asked for July 9th. And so I told him we would need to bring that back to the council to consider that. Since then, at one point, Mr. Foreman did ask for additional time beyond July 9th. And I responded back to him that I would put that before council and get some direction from you on that, but that I thought that because his initial request was for July 9th, and that he had quite a bit of time and still quite a bit of time until July 9th to prepare for continuing that performance review. That I just wasn't going to give him any suggestion that this request would be granted. So that's the issue before you. If you could give us some direction on whether you want to hold with that July 9th date or whether you want to entertain giving Mr. Foreman some additional time.
Well, what would be the implication of not giving him more time? In other words, do we open ourselves up that basically we didn't give enough time, give him enough time? What's the implication essentially?
I don't really think so, frankly, because I think you have given him enough time. He's had really since June 12th. He heard in that executive session some feedback on his performance. I don't want to go into the detail of that here because it was an executive session, but he heard that on the 12th. And then we followed up with written outline of that on the 18th. So, but he could have been preparing since the 12th, and certainly everything laid out in writing since the 18th. And he's on paid administrative leave to prepare for this. So it seems to me that that's sufficient time. He did ask for some clarifications on the issues, just kind of across the board without identifying any specific issues or points to be clarified. And I told him that if he could get us something more specific, we could get him, try to get him some clarifications, but I haven't heard that back from him. So it seems to me that you've been very reasonable in the amount of time that's been given. So I'm not really too concerned that not giving him additional time and somehow disadvantages the town.
I think it's been sufficient amount of time as well.
Yeah, it's almost a month at this point. I think we keep the July 9th. What's the sense of the council?
It looks like everybody's nodding in consent to keep it July 9th.
Yeah, July 9th.
I will be attending virtually, but I will be attending.
Right. Okay, so Mr. Cole, was there anything else related to that item? Do
Yes.
you want to?
Yes, so I had emailed all the council members. Again, I don't want to talk the details of that email, but one of the performance issues does relate to or involves a former in-house attorney, Andrew Ritchie. And in order to have some conversation with Mr. Ritchie, he would like to get a waiver of any confidentiality requirements that he might otherwise be under. And so I think that would be helpful to have some conversation with him. And so if council is thinking along those same lines, I would suggest that you entertain a motion that the council waive any confidentiality requirements contained in a release agreement dated September 10, 2021 between Mr. Ritchie and the town for the limited purpose, very limited purpose of allowing him to discuss with members of the council or myself the circumstances of his employment and separation from the town of Monument.
So moved?
Yeah.
Well,
I don't know that you could make the motion there,
No.
Mr. Cole.
No, I
Do you-
cannot make a motion.
Right.
Do you feel that would add clarity? I'm assuming you've spoken to Mr. Ritchie?
I have not spoken to him
Okay.
directly. I have emailed with him.
Okay.
And it may provide clarity and helpful information. It may not, but we won't know without speaking to him, and he requests this in order to speak.
And who would we be speaking to him, or is it you, Mr. Bob? How
Well,
would it work?
Yeah, it could be myself. You could designate representatives of council to have a discussion with him. That might be helpful. I think if all council members call and talk to him, we might as well ask him to come and show up one time and hear all at the same time, which doesn't really make a lot of sense.
Okay.
So, my only concerns with opening up that confidentiality agreement would be if any type of additional liability that would put the town in. So, we would just have to have that very limited so that it wouldn't create that problem. And you feel pretty confident we wouldn't have to deal with that as far as additional liability?
I do, based on the motion that was made. It is, again, for these very limited purposes, and I would follow up in writing with Mr. Ritchie and make sure he is aware that it is a very limited waiver of that confidentiality requirement, and otherwise it continues for all other purposes, for discussions with all other people.
Okay, so I will volunteer. I have I have interest in this because I had just come on to the board just before Mr. Ritchie was let go, and was not part of those discussions, which I found interesting. Interesting, yeah. So I have the motion if unless there's no other questions.
No, I think let's do it. Yeah.
So would you be present for that, Mr. Cole, or would this just be the mayor that would be doing this, or?
I would prefer Mr. Cole there if he's got time.
Okay. Or
Think so.
at least over the, Zoom or something.
Yes.
Okay.
All right, then I move that the town council waive the confidentiality requirements contained in the release agreement dated September 10th, 2021 from Andrew Ritchie for the limited purpose of allowing him to discuss with members of the town council or the town attorney the circumstances of his employment and separation from employment with the town of Monument.
Second.
Hold on.
Can we do that under the council authorization items, or does that have to be under a
We
different?
can make a motion anytime we want, I believe.
It's not a public hearing item.
Right.
Yeah, and I believe it sufficiently relates to the item that is listed on the request for rescheduling the special meeting. It goes to the subject of that special meeting, so I'm comfortable with that.
I'll make sure.
Thank you for,
Yeah, good
Keeping it.
point. Good point.
all right, so I've made a motion. Is there a second?
Seconded.
We've got a second, and I will give you the exact wording, Ms. Erickson.
How do you know I was gonna ask for that?
This is not his first rodeo.
I know. Mayor Pro Tem King,
Yes.
Councilmember Romanella,
Yes.
Councilmember Kimball,
Yes.
Councilmember Abbott,
Yes.
Councilmember Cronin,
Yes.
Mayor LaKine,
Yes?
Councilmember Fiorito.
Yes.
Okay, that motion passes 7-0, and,
While we're on authorization items, I have a question for Mr. Cole that might pertain to a potential authorization item, if I may.
you want to do that under council comments, which is right up after that?
It doesn't matter
It
to
doesn't
me.
matter, go ahead.
Okay, because Mr. Cole, I know you've been doing this for a hot minute, right? And in your legal experience, has it all been municipal law?
No, a lot of special district work, a lot of work with local government authorities, and for about the first 14, 15 years, I did quite a bit of water law, but that's now been 20 plus years ago. So don't ask me to act like a water lawyer.
Yeah, I have a water law question for you. So have you, in your municipal experience, have you ever helped a town, city, municipality go to home rule?
Yes. Yeah.
You have? Okay.
Yes, I took the town of Pagosa Springs through that process.
Okay, is it true that an elected board, which obviously are citizens of the town or city, going to home rule, is it illegal for them to go to or participate in a home rule meeting?
I'm trying to understand the angle to the question because it, to me, is so obviously the answer is no.
Let me ask you this then. Is it any kind of violation for an attorney that is, quote, representing a home rule charter going forward to tell a board that they are absolutely not allowed to go to a home rule session? Is that yes or no?
Could you just say it one more time so I'm
Okay,
clear on
so
the question?
if we were told specifically by Catherine Sellers that it was that we were not allowed as citizens, not only as board members, but as a citizen in the town to go to the home rule planning committee meeting, is that true or false?
I don't think it's prohibited.
It is not.
Is not. I don't think.
Okay,
it
so
would not be prohibited.
if a said attorney that quote had that marketed herself as being an expert in this and said that, and it is on public record, is there accountability to that?
Well, it is a question whether she was saying it's prohibited or it might be a best practice. And
I was told prohibited, but okay.
Okay.
So I would like to get a discussion item in the future and get minutes, YouTube videos, and actual said content, and have a discussion about the legalities of that with you. That is my future discussion
I
issue.
believe that's accurate.
Oh, okay.
I was part of that And the only thing that we had ever heard was that they didn't want trustees at that time coming in and making suggestions, but they were certainly able to sit in the audience. It wasn't to be a part of that home rule charter commission, but not that it was prohibited.
I'm asking is and I will help due diligence on this, is to pull minutes and videos and see exactly what verbiage was said, but I just wanted to get that on record. Okay, thank you.
Sure.
That was my question.
Bet.
Okay,
Mr. Mayor, we have a few other council authorization items if we can.
is there any other?
I have some.
Okay. Okay,
I would like to bring up on the next meeting, when we are going to be discussing a couple items from the charter, that we add the town manager residency requirements to be expanded, at least into 80132.
That's what it used to be.
Yeah, well, that's what it used to be, right?
Yeah.
And that can be, up for discussion then as to how far that does get expanded.
Okay.
But I know that everybody's gonna have to nod to this, because I don't want them to have confusion about that, if everybody's in agreement.
so you're just adding it to to discuss.
Right, but
We don't need if you want,
I think.
You're asking for a discussion item on that
That's
issue.
right. That's right.
Okay, yeah, I'm good with that.
And the second thing that I would like to add is we've been getting a fair amount of complaints continuing from Home Place Ranch working outside the normal hours. And somehow we need to increase that enforcement. And because they just, talking to them is doing nothing. I know I've been up there. I know Mayor's been up there. I know police have been up there a bunch of times. And Ken's been up there. And it just doesn't seem to ever get resolved. And quite frankly, I'm tired of getting the emails. I'm sure everybody else is as well.
Are they getting funds or just letters?
Well, to be completely honest, people aren't reporting it the right way. So it's difficult for us to know when there's violations, but we are putting our PSA out there as much as we can. I have one right now. He only works half of the week. But we're going through the normal progression with them as much as we do with everybody else, with a warning, and then we can move into citations based on the code that we just recently changed.
So if you think about how we can, I don't need you to put you on the spot right now, but how we could better enforce that, and whatever you need from us to make it with more teeth.
I think one thing that Chief Regan mentioned is for citizens to report it, because if they don't report it, it never happened.
Right, and if we're not checking Nextdoor and we're not
Yeah.
checking social media outlets for violations, and I'm not trying to make a joke, it's
No,
true.
it's,
Doesn't mean I don't get them from other people. But, and we respond to that. It's just, if we could get people going online and utilizing our code tracker, or just calling in a non-emergency tip to send us to the right place, we'll be more than happy. And if we're catching people in the act, it's very easy to enforce what they're doing. The other issue, and I won't say it's an issue, is that we're dealing with subcontractors, we're dealing with the guys on the ground. That is not gonna fix the problem. It'll fix it that day, right? But it doesn't really fix the problem. So I like what Mayor Pro Tem said, is that we might need some leverage to go higher than we've been going to get this result. Because it's really easy for them to say, well, we didn't know, right?
but the other piece is reporting it gives you a track record, so that when you go higher, you have something in black and white saying that this is what the citizens have been reporting, and they've seen it. So it's more than just paperwork exercise. It gives you that ammunition for when you do go higher.
Right. And this isn't necessarily the case, but a lot of times people want to put something on social media where we actually need them to maybe testify or talk to it, and they don't want to do it. So usually when you call in to the non-emergency number, or you put your information online, at least we have some follow-up that we can do. It's just a lot of anonymity and difficult working backwards. Now, I will say, when we get complaints from other people that show me a Facebook or some sort of post, we go in and do the back work, right? We put it into the log. It just takes a lot more time when my PSA can be out doing the work.
Can we advertise that process again? If we haven't, if we have, can we do it again? If we haven't, can we put it on
Yeah.
the Town of
We'll have
Monument
it on our-
website?
We'll have it on our social media tomorrow.
Yeah, and by other means too, is there,
Sure.
other than the social media? Is
Want to
there,
take commercials out or something?
I can put a couple signs in the right way.
well, I was thinking more when you're handing out a ticket, you can give them a card to say, here's the process of, lodging a complaint.
That's a great idea.
No, but is there, I mean, is there like in the, yeah, either the community news or in the paper?
Paper, yeah. Absolutely. I liked all those ideas. In fact, we used to call it a bond card. If I gave you a traffic ticket, you got a card with it that said, here's the steps. That's something we can easily work on. We revamped the citation since we changed our code. That does have a lot of information on it, but we can do something colorful and make it really clear, like, hey, can't do this. The goal with our community resource officer too is to create a quarterly newsletter. That'd be a great addition to that too.
Thank you.
Okay, your council authorization items that you have.
On the 7:15 agenda, right now, according to the budget calendar, we have a budget presentation scheduled, and we would like to change that to a budget study session to have with council.
So before the meeting? Okay.
Yes.
30, is that what you're looking for, an hour, or what are you looking for?
How much time do you need?
Yeah, we were thinking 5:30.
Okay.
Good with me.
I'm okay with that on that day.
Okay.
I'm okay on that day. Good.
I think just, it sounds like you're good for it, but we talked about it too, that we're at a point where we would appreciate a little bit more input before kind of presenting to you to make sure what we're doing aligns with the goals of the council.
Okay. That's hard.
Specifically, are you asking specifically for this topic on the budget or just in general?
General budget.
This one, 7:15.
Correct.
This is pretty consistent. We've kind of done this guy for years. So not a surprise.
There's dealing with the budget. Some things that specifically need to be addressed or looked at is how are we going to fund Jackson Creek and also the water? Whether we go with the loop or the delivery system. Those have to be discussed.
So Jackson Creek specifically is one of the things we want to talk about when we're prioritizing funds for next year.
Yeah.
But it's also in a group of other things we want to talk about, but to get that list from all of you would make it a lot easier for us to really focus our efforts where you think we should be putting them.
So you want us to email you or how do you want, or?
An email of list. A
That's
list of
what we
things.
would go over in the study session.
Okay. Perfect, right.
Cool. So we don't have to bring anything except for our ideas for the study session to review them with you.
And good attitude.
So
And snacks.
We'll be here. We can say that.
Officially, chief is on a roll.
yeah.
So it was Chief Regal.
Yeah, is there any other?
I have one more.
Okay.
And it's more of a compassionate ask of the council. With everything that's been going on and the turmoil that the employees have been going through, I was hoping to ask the council if we can make an exception for July 5th to be a holiday this year and give people Friday off.
I'm good.
It's a federal
It's a state
or
holiday.
state.
Yeah.
State holiday is, I think we've given direction previously to bring the calendars together for what the state and federal does. I believe we will find that most of the municipalities are probably closed also on that day. So I'm okay with that.
The corporate home office.
Yeah.
It's like a lot of private business.
And I know that many of the staff will be working on the 4th.
And on the
So-
5th. I mean, we still have essential work. Yeah, we'll still have people out, but more of our people dealing with what's been going on here in the building.
Okay,
Yep.
Have fun.
sure.
Thank you.
Okay, any other council really?
Wait, I waited till the end.
Okay, go ahead, Tom.
At our Loop Water Authority meetings, we're at the point now where all four members are being asked to bring or try to bring one of the council members to the next meeting. Because there's certain parts of where we're at in developing this that we need to bring the council in. And I think the best way to do that is to bring all the four agencies, bring in one person so we can talk to them about where we're at, what's going to happen. And I would imagine there's going to be a more deeper presentation in the future when we get to that point. But the problem that we anticipate is the meeting's on the 18th at 9 a.m. And I know the majority of you work, so
Some of us
I just
don't.
need to know.
I can do it if nobody wants to do it,
Oh, I can do it too.
or both of us can do it.
Oh, we could do that.
We could tag team it.
Um,
Ronnie and Mr. Keith.
okay. I've got two.
And that's it here in the board.
We sent an invite out so they all know.
We can do that.
Okay.
Or, yeah, we can do that.
Just a question, Tom, what you brought up saying that you guys are, I guess in these meetings, they're still work in progress, but yet we were told earlier in the year for this, that they were going to come back to us with a presentation with hard numbers on cost. And then that was going to be in, I think it was early summer. Now it was kicked to late summer. So I'm thinking August, is that still on track, or are we talking about kicking this further on down the road again?
I thought it was September last time we talked
I
about
think,
it.
I think where we're at now is we're still trying to vet out whether Colorado Springs Utilities is gonna be a small part of this system or not. It makes a big difference when it goes to financing, whether we're gonna with a bond type setup. And we've had Nate Eckloff involved, who's the same bond counsel the town has used. So I think we're a lot better with the numbers now, or at least I'm not expecting them to change a whole lot. So I think the meeting's gonna come very soon. I can't give you a date because we haven't set a date. But where we'll be able to do the presentation that'll show you exactly what the numbers are gonna look like.
What bond are you referring to? Bond
No.
for our portion?
Well, it just depends on, because there's four different entities and everybody, some people bringing cash to it, some people want to finance their whole part of it. And others will be a mix. So we got bond counsel advice to show what that is going to look like. So we'll be able to talk about that when we do the presentation in front of the whole council.
Okay. I really don't like hearing the word bond.
Well, but
it's
if
not.
this was going to be a bond, this would be the water authority that would be doing the
Yes,
bond,
it'll be
right?
a one bond from the Loop Water Authority with bond.
Okay.
Well, I mean, we still have to, we have to have the cash to contribute. And if we don't, then my guess is someone's going to ask us to approve bonds. We can get to that discussion later though, because I want to get into it now. All right, other. No, I'm tracking. Tom, any other?
No, I'm done.
Okay. Mona, did you have something? A council authorization item?
No.
Okay. Is there any council comments? Go ahead.
I think it's a great thing that we have a contract with Monument Academy for resource officers. I think they need to be there in the schools and show presence. But I'm still pushing for resource officers in D38 schools and coming up with something, because at present, my understanding is in the D38 schools, although there are resource officers, they're not there every day. They rotate around, so there isn't top coverage. So how do we get there? And what's either a path forward, or what is the I guess I'm looking at you, Chief. Chief, what are we doing or what are you doing to kind of push that and address that with D38 and encouraging them coming back? I'm not sure if it's saying coming back to the table to come with agreement. I'm not sure if that's it or if it's just, yeah, staffing where we can hire more cops.
So the answer.
Hang on. This would be something that would have fallen under a council authorization item to make a discussion so that we could have a research and a dialogue, what you want back and forth.
Well,
But
it's not the first time I brought it up, but I brought it up on our council comments to initiate that and then hopefully get it to an authorization.
well, you can get it to an authorization item right now. Just pick a date that you want to have the discussion and Chief can get the details that he needs to present and after we discuss. I mean, we have a pretty full plate for the next July meeting.
August 5th.
I don't have any details to gather for that. So there's,
But we can have a discussion though.
okay, I'm just, there's nothing.
Just
I
a
need to
discussion
research. I
item
know what my answer is.
for the first meeting in August on SROs for schools that are not currently serviced by Monument. And if you have specific schools that you would like, we should probably be prepared to talk about them. The 38 schools. But we'll have a discussion item first meeting in August on SROs and D38.
We have to invite the superintendents.
Is this a discussion with our police or do you want the school involved?
I think we start with them. I think we start with our police department, with our police chief, and then if we find it necessary to expand it, then we can expand it.
The superintendent literally started yesterday.
And
I
I
was
think,
gonna add that would be the first conversation we would have.
Yeah.
yeah, and I think that if I'm not mistaken, the council doesn't get involved in those discussions. There would be a IGA or an MOU.
Right, just like
But-
the one we signed tonight.
So
You
if
approved tonight.
after that discussion, we all agree to give board direction to pursue that, then the staff will do that. All right, so we've got a discussion item now
On the calendar,
on the calendar.
on the calendar.
Do you have more things that you want on the calendar?
The other stuff, last meeting, so.
Oh, what are we missing now? What are we?
The list of,
That's an executive session.
Yeah.
Next meeting.
Okay. Any other council comments?
I'd just like to make an announcement that I'm officially rerunning for another term in November.
When do we have to? Is it August? Okay.
There'll be what?
August 6th will be when the nomination petitions will be available to pick up.
Okay.
Okay. And turn in is. Sorry,
August 26th.
26. Gotcha. Thank you.
Happy anniversary, Bob. Happy late anniversary.
Yeah, happy belated anniversary.
Thank you.
Any other council comments?
Mitch is looking for a motion to adjourn.
Looking for a motion to adjourn.
Bye-bye.
One more thing at 69.
What?
Adjourn.
What? Oh, okay, we need a policy. We're gonna have to policy on paying our acting town managers. Because we have to pay them for the difference.
The dual role.
The dual role. We have to act on it. So
okay.
we have to.
We never made it formal.
No, we have to come up with the numbers. So I have already started looking at salary surveys for
Okay.
town managers across. I am happy to share that. We can do an executive session at the next meeting if you would like to discuss it.
Yes.
Will that be the fifth executive session for July 15th.
Bob, what do you suggest on how we approach this?
It probably is best discussed in public meeting, frankly. Unless I think most pay issues don't rise to an executive session discussion unless they're affecting an individual person. Now you
Well,
got two people involved here, but you're really not talking about a employment contract, so it's not contract negotiations. It's not really a personnel matter in this context. It's
It's
more
a
fiscal
supplemental
matter.
pay.
Yeah.
So why don't we, as long as the agenda will probably be on the 15th, I think it's only fair that we add this on. Would it be a resolution, or would it be a discussion item, or what would it be?
I think it should be an action item, but it could be done by motion. It could be done by resolution if you want to put it in writing.
Yeah, I think it should be.
Yeah.
I mean,
Let me talk to Bob about it, and if it makes sense to put it on the 15th, we'll put it on the 15th. If not, then we'll go to the next.
whatever we do, we'll make sure that they get retro paid.
Right.
for
Of
it.
course,
So,
of course.
so you guys will be taken care of, okay? Yeah, okay.
Yep.
It's a difference between normal employees and like town managers or town attorneys or things like that that are under our purview senior. Right, so, regular staff that works in this building, their, salaries and bonuses and stuff are generally not public information. But since we're voting on that should all be done in public, and the financial information from decisions that council makes, whether it be for, salaries or any other monetary decisions that we make, are they all supposed to be public?
Well, certainly the decisions you make to anyone that directly reports to you,
That's what I'm getting at, right?
yeah, those need to be made in public, but to reorient you, salary and pay information on all your employees is public information.
Okay, but it wouldn't be necessarily like in the minutes or anything like that, because that's all done, with HR or a town manager or something like that.
That's right. That's right.
Okay.
But to the extent there are records that provide that information, those are public records that are available if requested. Yes.
Okay, but our decisions here would be public at the dais here, correct?
That's right. Yeah.
Okay.
Now, if you have legal questions, if you're negotiating, kind of taking it out of the context of your interim town managers, but if you're negotiating with a direct report candidate, then you can have an executive session to discuss those negotiations among yourself and instruct negotiators. Again, any legal questions related to the process or any of the requirements, that can be an executive session. And with any individual, you can have personnel matters that are in executive session if they consent to having that discussion there. But in this context, I think a discussion of what to pay the interim managers, I'm not seeing how that would fall into a more typical personnel matter discussion.
Yeah, and I'm not looking to get there. I'm just trying to get clear on the transparency aspects of it. Like, in statutory towns where the clerk and the treasurer and the town manager and attorney are all under the purview of the council, that information would be publicly discussed, generally speaking, correct?
Yes.
Okay. All right. Thank you very much.
You bet.
And now,
Motion to adjourn.
Again?
Second.
all in favor?
Aye.
We're adjourned.
Good night.